If you start getting frightened of it, then you make it worse. Because you project onto it all kinds of bogies and threats which don't exist in it at all. Whenever you meet a ghost, don't run away. Because the ghost will capture the substance of your fear and materialize itself out of your own substance. And will kill you eventually. Because it will take over all your own vitality. So then, whenever confronted with a ghost, walk straight into it, and it will disappear. We've got to survive. You must survive.
So who did benefit from 9/11? Larry Silverstein. This man became the leaseholder of the World Trade Center complex just a few weeks before 9/11. Silverstein faced the daunting task of having to remove the illegal asbestos that covered every steel beam in the Twin Towers. This job would have cost over $1 billion. When Silverstein took possession of the World Trade Center complex, he reworked the insurance policy on the complex to specifically cover terrorist attacks. After 9/11, Silverstein received $7 billion compensation from his insurers. That's a massive profit on his original $15 million investment. So when it comes to the question of who benefited from 9/11, on a scale of 0 to 10, Larry Silverstein scores 10. The project for the new American century. In September of 2000, these men produced a neocon manifesto called Project for the New American Century, or PNAC for short. This manifesto detailed their ambitions and intentions for America in the 21st century. It called for the transformation of America into tomorrow's dominant force through permanent military bases in the Middle East. It also wanted to establish America as a global constabulary, unchallenged by the UN and the rest of the world. It also called for regime change in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. But it said that fulfilling these ambitions would be a long process unless there was a catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. Within 12 months of producing the PNAC manifesto, the events of 9/11 took place, and the new neocon administration was able to carry out virtually every ambition called for in their PNAC manifesto. So when it comes to the question of who benefited from 9/11, on a scale of 0 to 10, the PNAC group scores 10. Dick Cheney. The current Vice President and former CEO of Halliburton still receives a multi-year deferred salary package from Halliburton, whose stock has increased considerably since the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. The arms industry. There is nothing better for the arms industry than a war. Since 9/11, billions of dollars worth of missiles and bombs have been used and have to be replaced, and President Bush is asking for and receiving additional defense funds. He is the man to spend those billions of dollars and give them to his friends and business partners, who in turn support his political career, not least with money. As part of the Carlyle Group, the Bush family have already gained huge profits from the company's manufacture of weapons and military bases since 9/11. So when it comes to the question of who benefited from 9/11, on a scale of 0 to 10, Bush, Cheney and the arms industry scores 10. US oil companies. Again, a business field where President Bush is involved. Over 60% of the world's oil fields happen to be in the Middle East. The current supply of oil used by the US, which is the world's biggest oil consumer, will be exceeded by demand within the next 10 years or so. Without gaining control of that 60% of oil in the Middle East, the US economy would soon collapse. So it is essential for America to gain control of those oil fields in the Middle East as soon as possible. Not just for its own use, but also to control the supply of that oil to other countries such as China, which will soon become the most powerful nation on earth. Since the 1980s, US oil interests have wanted to build an oil pipeline from the Caspian oil fields down through Afghanistan. They wanted to do this in order to control the supply of oil to countries such as China. However, the Taliban, who occupied Afghanistan at the time, refused to allow the US to build this pipeline. However, just one day after America installed its own government in Afghanistan, the contract was signed to construct the pipeline they desperately wanted. So when it comes to the question of who benefited from 9/11, on a scale of 0 to 10, the American oil companies scored 10. The US government. The terrorist attacks on 9/11 gave the US government the excuse to further pursue its goal of a new world order by means of war. The Patriot Act allows the government to spy on the communications of every citizen. It also allows the sampling of DNA of any person convicted of any crime of violence. And it also allows arrest on suspicion, without a warrant, without probable cause, in secret, without notifying anybody, and without the right to see a lawyer. So the people who've been blamed for 9/11, i.e. Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein, have gained nothing from 9/11 and lost everything as a result of 9/11. Whereas the people who pointed the finger of blame, i.e. Bush, Cheney and the Peanut Group, gained everything they had wanted as a direct result of 9/11. The same is true of the World Trade Center leaseholder, Larry Silverstein, and of course the US oil and arms companies.